Hey guys, thanks for watching my first video of 2020. Since it's a new year and all, I thought I'd try something different. For Christmas, my wife bought me an Anycubic Photon resin printer and I've been having an absolute blast. As I've been going through this process, I've been learning about how to orient your models and how to properly support them, and I figured as I've been doing this, I'd like to highlight some artists and modelers that I find really enjoyable. A lot of these people spend a lot of time making their models look really realistic or making it look a high detail, and I really appreciate that. So what I would like to do is start a little series highlighting, as I said, artists and their work. There'll be a little speed paint tutorial through there, not really showing you how I paint it, but more or less showing what the model will look like once it's done. This is intended to be kind of almost free promotion, if you will, for these artists, as they're doing their work for free and they're putting it on my Mini Factory or Thingiverse or the places like that. And so I kind of like to pay back to them and maybe push some people their way and kind of highlight what they can do. So without further ado, I'd like to go to my first project, which is Schlossbauer's Purple Worm. I was scrolling through his models and I was blown away by the detail. When I saw the purple worm, I just had to have it. So I downloaded it, printed it out, cleaned it up, and took it over to the painting table. As I look at this model, there's a lot of things that I really want to highlight and bring out with the paint job. First of all, these mandibles here are very aggressive, and I think it really adds a lot to the character. So I want to make sure that I paint those very nicely. Secondly, up at the top you can see this carapace here. I want to make sure that the texture of the carapace shines through. Finally, looking at the skin portion in the center, you can definitely tell the different textures, and I want to make sure that my highlights and my shading comes through. On the bottom, you see these bits here, the skin, and I want to make sure that looks different as well. I'd like to go over a list of the colors I'm going to use for this project, starting out with the body. For the body, I'll be using Bugman's Glow to give it a nice base coat. Then I will highlight some of the areas with Cadian Flesh Tone. And I'll do the extreme highlights with Pink Horror. For anything for the flesh, I'll be shading with Carroburg Crimson. For the skin, I'll be basing with Nagaroth Night. And I'll be highlighting with Xerius Purple. I'll be shading with Druchii Violet. For the carapace, I'll be using Abaddon Black, and I'll be shading with Nuln Oil. For the teeth, I'll be using Skeleton Horde, and I'll highlight with Screaming Skull. I never used Sterling Mud before, but I think I'll use Sterling Mud around the base. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the pink fleshy parts of the body and the face. Now I'm going to base paint the body with Nagaroth Night and shade with Druchii Violet. Next, I'll be painting the carapace with Abaddon Black. Here is where I make a very unfortunate mistake. I ended up covering the entire base, not just the untextured area, which covered up the artist's modeled area, and it definitely takes away from the overall look now that it's done. But it is my first time using Sterling Mud, so now I know what to do. Now that the Nagaroth Night has dried, I apply a layer of Druchii Violet. Now I shade the pink fleshy parts with Carolbird Crimson. Now I base coat the teeth with Screaming Skull. Now that the Druchii Violet has dried, I go over the raised edges with Nagaroth Night to bring out that vibrance. Next, I use a lightened version of Nagaroth Night to edge highlight the carapace and also bring details to the ridges and bumps within the carapace. Once that dries, I use the same Nagaroth Night to dry brush the carapace to give just more detail to the edges. After that, I shade the carapace with Nuln Oil to dull down the highlighted areas. Next, I use Skeleton Horde to cover the Screaming Skull on the teeth to give it a more weathered and aged look. Finally, I use Pink Horror to highlight all the raised areas of the fleshy pink parts. And with that, my version of the D&D Purple Worm creature is complete. Thank you so much, Schlossbauer, for your free model, and thank you so much for watching.